My name is John Schnurr, and I'm a seminarian for the Diocese of Hamilton. And this is my vocation story, why I left my job as a commercial pilot to become a Catholic priest.
Takeoff power is set. Today I'm flying to Elk Island. This is my last flight as a commercial pilot. At the end of this week I'm driving to Southern Ontario to resume my studies to be a Catholic priest. People ask me, John, so what made you decide to become a priest? And it was a whole lot of multiple factors over a number of years. I guess I first thought of it when I was in my mid-teens. Went for a retreat with the Legionaries, and I came away from the weekend retreat with a real feeling that this is not what I want to do.
I had a very immature view of what the priesthood was. I thought it was just that, it's a person who says Mass for the people, who helps them out, and I didn't understand that the priesthood is a reconfiguration of the man to Christ. So it's not simply just reduced to the functions that he does, but it is that he has been radically reconfigured through the sacrament of holy orders to act in the person of Christ himself. When he baptizes people, when he offers the Mass, when he hears confessions, he is acting in the person of Christ. And that is why I want to become a Catholic priest. I want to be like Jesus. I want to act in the way that Jesus acts.
What I really wanted to do, though, was to become a pilot. So in 2005, then I went to Seneca College in Toronto for their aviation degree program. Graduated in 2009. I worked for as a flight instructor for a year and a half, and I moved out to Winnipeg in 2011. Worked for this company for 2.5 years, and in that time I got to know the priest at the Catholic Church here in Winnipeg, St. Anthony of Padua. Every church that I had gone to, then the priest would always ask me, John, have you ever thought of becoming a priest? And I would always say yes, but I don't feel God is calling me to that.
So at that time I thought that a man becomes a priest when he fails school, when he can't get a job, or he hates the job he has, maybe he can't get a girlfriend. If his life is a complete disaster, then I thought as a last resort, then he becomes a priest. But that's not how it works. The priesthood is not something that we choose. It is not something that we take upon ourselves. It is not something of our own initiative. Jesus Christ invites us to become a priest, and then we are invited to respond.
So when Father Dominic asked me the same thing, I said, I was expecting it, and I said yes, but I don't feel God is calling me to that. But he didn't give up. It was early in the year of 2013. We met for coffee at a Tim Hortons, and he asked me again, John, so have you ever thought of becoming a priest? And I said the same response, yes, but I don't feel God is calling me to that.
So something changed at that time. After my conversation with Father Dominic, I couldn't think of something other than the priesthood. It kept coming back into my mind. I tried to think about my love of flying. I tried to think about my ambitious career, the places that I wanted to go, the airlines I wanted to work for. But my thoughts kept returning to the priesthood. What if there's something here? What if God is calling me to be a priest? And it was weighing so heavily on my mind that I had to enter seminary. I had to enter seminary and discern if this is where God's calling me. Now, I didn't enter seminary with the expectation that I would be ordained, but I entered seminary with the expectation that I would discern. I would prayerfully ask God if this is where He wants me to be.
So that spring I applied to St. Augustine Seminary, went through the application process. I got accepted. I got word of my acceptance in about, I guess it was July of 2013. And September of that year, then I left my flying job and went to study philosophy at St. Augustine Seminary in Toronto. The school was over the following April. I came back out here to Winnipeg to fly, and I went back to school in September for the first theology. When that was done this spring, I came back out here to fly and flew all summer, lodge trips, charters here and there. Went to several dozen places in northern Ontario, northern Manitoba this summer. And that's all wound down to where I am right here, flying an empty plane up to Elk Island, pick up some passengers, and go back to St. Andrews, which will be my last flight as a commercial pilot. So it's kind of, I woke up this morning, it was just a surreal experience. This is my last time waking up, putting on the shirt and tie, driving to work. And it's something, flying is something that I've always liked, I always will like. And I've spent the last 10 years of my life working at it.
People tell me all the time that, John, you can be the flying priest. And while that's a nice thought, and there may be a need for that, if I enter the seminary expecting to be a flying priest, if I base my priesthood on the fact that I can fly, if I will only be happy as a priest who flies, then I'm entering the seminary, I'm becoming a priest for the wrong reasons. A priest has to be happy being a priest. If you attach restrictions to the priesthood, such as I will only be a priest if I can fly, or I'll only be a priest if I can work in this parish, then you're entering the priesthood with the wrong intention. You have to be a priest for the sake of being a priest.
It is quite a sacrifice to let it go, but at the same time, I know I'm getting something much better studying for the priesthood, so I'm thankful to the Lord for that. And just want to ask all of you to keep praying for vocations. Don't give up. The priests I know, they never gave up on me. They would always, come back and ask me, John, have you ever thought of becoming a priest? And now I can truthfully say that, yes, I have thought of becoming a priest. And God willing, I will be ordained in 2019. Tower from Keystone 212. This is my last flight as a commercial pilot, so wondering if we can do a low and over, then come around again for landing on 18.
Keystone 212, absolutely. The low approach runway 18 is approved with the right-hand circuit.
Low approach approved for Keystone 212.
12 Tower, clear to land, runway 18.
Clear to land 18, Keystone 212.
Keystone 2012, long lines approved. Winds at 2408 knots, full line runway 18, exit left on Charlie.
Clear to land 18, exit Charlie, Keystone 212.
Keystone 212 Tower taxi into apron 2. I hope you're done being commercial pilot for good reasons.
Thanks, taxi to apron 2. I'm going back to school, Toronto at the St. Augustine Seminary to study for the Catholic priesthood.
Wow, that sounds like quite the honor.
Thanks, it certainly is quite the change.
No kidding. Have yourself a good night.
You too, take care.